Hello and welcome. If it's morning, afternoon, wherever you are and wherever you're listening or watching this podcast, thank you for joining us for the Deer Talk Now podcast, number 138, I believe, Ian, of the new format.
Or 130. It's somewhere in the late 130s, yeah.
130s of the new format. 13 years we've been doing this podcast. I have been here for 30 years as of last month, because this is airing right during muzzleloader season. Today we have two special guests, Tom Hall and Alison Hall. Thank you for joining us from the Traditions headquarters.
Thank you for having us. This is awesome.
Good to see you, Dan.
Thanks. Same here. I just want to ask you guys, the only thing we ever ask you to do is like and subscribe, whether you're listening to this podcast on Spotify or Apple Music or wherever you're listening to it, or if you're watching it on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, wherever you're watching it. That's all we ask you to do. And then what we'd also ask you to do is comment. So if you have questions, don't send me an email. I appreciate your emails. Put them right there in the comments, because I know Allison looks at these herself and she might reply. So you might get a better reply from her than you're going to get from me on today's podcast. But today we're going to jump right into it. So when this airs, our muzzleloader season here in Wisconsin has just started. And I know it has been going, for a lot of states, it's been going, there's been some early seasons. And I have just had an opportunity to hunt with these two in Oklahoma. But Tom, I want to ask you the first question. Just give everybody who's listening a little history on where you came in with Traditions, because I know Traditions muzzleloaders has been one of the forerunners of all in the muzzleloading industry.
We came into Traditions in 1992 and bought the company, and at that point it was just sidelock guns, a few different models, some accessories and stuff. And since then it's moved into, as you know, inline rifles, removable breech plugs, and then the biggest innovation we've had is the new Fire Stick NitroFire platform. So we offer all different models for all different seasons, whether it's Wisconsin or Oklahoma or wherever it is. We have all that, and we got a lot of experience here with Traditions. The folks have been here a lot of years, so it's an exciting line, and it's an exciting sport to go out and shoot a muzzleloader during deer season.
That's what we're going to talk about. Is I'm going to focus a lot on the NitroFire and the Fire Stick, but I wanted to ask you, what was your first experience with a muzzleloader, period? Like, what was the first type of gun you shot, and when was it?
Sure. Well, many years ago, but it was a sidelock rifle, a mountain rifle, which was black powder, a patched round ball.
Wow.
And just shooting at targets and stuff, and then started hunting with it that fall. So
did you shoot a deer with that?
Not that year. A few years later, yes, I did.
And what about you, Allison? What was your first taste with a muzzleloader?
Sure. So probably when I came into the capacity I'm at Traditions now, when I graduated college and came on board here, I started going out to the range, shooting. I was unsuccessful for many years with a muzzleloader. Unfortunately, just sat out there all day sits. We spent a lot of time in the blind together, just waiting for a deer. I truthfully have not shot a deer yet with a muzzleloader. I have only shot hogs with a muzzleloader. So I'm really hoping, this fall to check that off.
I think we're probably going to be.
Just not with a muzzleloader.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. We're probably going to be showing video of Allison shooting one with this podcast. But the reason I asked both of you, and I kind of thought that was the case for you, Tom, because I know that you've been doing it for a long time. But when we talk about muzzleloading these days, I know the perception for most listeners and most consumers is that patched round ball, and that's what muzzleloading is about. I'm going to admit I shot my first muzzleloader in 1995, and it was an inline muzzleloader, and that's all I've ever known. I never shot a sidelock. I never shot a patched round ball. We've published numerous articles. We got one actually in the December issue of Deer and Deer Hunting, if you guys want to see it. Al Raychard wrote a great piece on shooting patched round balls. But I've never done that. And I think most hunters today, And my point coming here is it's kind of like archery, because when you look at, traditional archery with a recurve, well, a compound, I started with a compound. Most guys, that's all they knew. And now we got crossbows, but we're all part of one community. And that's how muzzleloading is you have your traditional guys, you have your inline guys, and now you have people who are shooting the new technology, but it's still the same thing. And that was what I wrote down here. You have one shot, make it count. But you're putting you're actually seating the bullet, no matter how you're doing it, and you got one chance. And that's what muzzleloading is about.
We always like to say a one-shot challenge, because it really is, you got one opportunity.
One opportunity to do it. So I know you guys have new stuff in store that we can't talk about yet. You guys just going to have to hold out for a couple weeks for 2025. I know they're going to unveil it in January, but they have some cool stuff coming. But a couple years ago, you guys partnered up, I know, with our friends at Federal. You came out with the Nitro Fire. And I had to look, and I sent this to Allison this morning. There's only 10 states, and I don't even count some of these as states, like Washington and California. No offense if you guys live out there, but you kind of do your own thing. But there's only a few states where you cannot use this new technology, because I think everybody in the industry, and when I say that, I'm just talking about hunters and even people in the manufacturing end of things, have educated people on the technology. So I don't know who wants to take this question, but tell us where that idea came from and how it came to what we have today.
Sure. So we sat down and we were talking with Federal, and they came to us and said, "Are you guys interested in partnering up on a new muzzleloading platform?" And at the same time, we were looking at designing something that was similar. And so we sat down and we started talking about it, looking at what they had, what we had, and then we just started the development stage and made different prototypes, put it through all the different testing, and it went from there to where it is today. We, even from the states you're talking about, we had a group of people that went to the states, made sure that they're aware of the new platform, how safe it is, how easy it is to use, and basically tried to get more people involved in muzzleloading. And certainly it has. The Nitro Fire and the Fire Stick does what we intended it to do, and that's it's make it safe and fun to shoot.
It's made it safe, fun to shoot, and a lot cleaner, I think. It's the mess isn't there. I don't have to shoot my gun off. Ian's going to put some links or video in this podcast, but if you guys are not familiar with this, basically what it is, and correct me, Allison and Tom, if I'm wrong, it's essentially an inline muzzleloader that's got what I'd call a little shelf at the bottom of the breech, like where you seat your bullet, and your bullet can only go down to that it's a little rim in there. And then what you do is you crack that gun open like you would on any other inline. And then it's an encapsulated charge that you actually have to take the primer, put the primer in there. So then when you're hunting, you snap your gun back together, you load your bullet like you would like any other muzzleloading. But at the end of the day, you don't shoot, you don't get a chance, whatever. You crack the gun open, you take the charge out. The bullet's still in the gun, but can't fire a bullet without a charge. And you can go hunting tomorrow without having to deal with it. And for me, what I found was it's enormously safe, because, like, let's face it, we can talk till we're blue in the face to people. Like, you have a regular inline muzzleloader that you loaded and it's charged, and you took the primer out, you still got a possibility there of something bad going on. If I'm getting out of a tree stand, if I'm crossing creeks and fences to get back to my truck at night, this took that all out of the equation. And I think the education, because most states said, well, it's, that's just a single shot shotgun. I'm like, no, it's not. I said, like, it's still a charge with a primer in it, and you're taking it out. And I think once you put those in the hands of people and they saw it and they're like, oh, actually, this makes a lot of sense. So did I get that right? I mean, that's kind of how I viewed it since I've shot it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think a couple other takeaways from that too is that the fire stick is impervious to moisture. For muzzleloader hunters, moisture is a big enemy a lot of the time. So that's a really nice thing about that capsule. And I think it's important to note the consistency. Loading on that shelf and seating your bullet in the same spot every single time is so important for your downrange accuracy. That fire stick is also loaded at the factory. So you're getting the same load every single time. If you use pellets and you seat your bullet, you might crush that pellet a little bit. It might not be sitting exactly in the same spot. We'd all love to say that we're super accurate when we're measuring on our powder. Maybe it's a little bit off. Maybe when you you seated your bullet, it sat differently. This really takes out some of that guesswork and those variables and just allows you to have a much more improved shooting experience.
I agree with you, and I totally forgot about that. I've had that happen on both ends. I've crushed pellets, and I've missed deer. I've loaded 3 pellets, and I know they didn't all ignite, and I just kind of had like a thud, and what was that? And I don't know if it was lower velocities, but I've had situations that resulted in terrible blood trails, and I've also had powder get wet. One thing I wanted to ask you also is, are the new fire sticks, it's 888, right, from Hodgdon? Is that all you're loading with those?
Well, Federal's loading them in their factory with the 888 powder that they get from Hodgdon. Absolutely, yep. That's the
And
only
what
powder
is the
they're using.
difference, Tom, between that and like 777 or just like other Pyrodex?
It's going to be closer to like a Blackhorn 209, so it burns cleaner than a 777. Obviously, 777 has a different formulation than a Blackhorn, but
Is it hotter burning?
it burns cleaner. It's hotter, and again, that's part of the accuracy that we talked about. You don't have all that fouling inside your barrel, so when you load the next bullet, when you're at the range or even if in a hunting situation, it goes down easy and sits right on that shelf versus maybe a fouling ring that's in there. But yeah, that Hodgson 888 burns clean, and it's just hotter ignition to drive it. That's why you need to use the right primers, because that also could affect your accuracy.
That's what I was going to ask you. What are the primers that you would suggest for that?
Well, the ones right now we suggest are on the fire stick package itself. It's a Federal muzzleloading primer that they recommend, but also some of the CCI 209 primers, Federal 209 primers are good. One of the biggest things is make sure that it's a American-made primer, because that primer is designed to fit in that pocket on the fire stick. If you use like maybe a European brand primer, it doesn't sit in there all the way, and it doesn't burn. It's a different powder. It's a bit different compound that's in there, and it could affect your accuracy. But
What if a guy
the
has
ones
like
that we know go off.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say the ones that we use in all our testing are the ones that I mentioned from Federal, and those will work and give you the results you're looking for.
Is it just a 209 primer, or is it something special? Is it a different configuration?
Yeah, on the Federal it's a 209A, and then it's a muzzleload. The other one is just a Federal muzzleloading primer. So it's a little bit different. It's a little hotter than some of the other ones, but it fits right into that pocket.
Okay, that's good to know, because I know a lot of guys probably have old primers laying around, and you just want to make sure you're using the right ones to get the right ignition.
Yeah, Winchester and some of the other American-made ones will fit in there, and they'll work also. So I don't, not just those two. There's other ones that will work. Remington, clean bore primers will work. Those are a little hotter. It's got to be an American-made one, so it fits down in that pocket.
I think we want people to know that too, just because back during COVID, we released this in 2020, then we had those COVID years and things were scarce. It was hard for people to find certain things. So some people might have stock from when that was difficult. And we just want them to know that they really need to use the correct recipe, if you will, to make sure their muzzler is going to perform properly.
Just to that point, Dan, is that I had a TV personality call us up and say, hey, I have this new nitrofire rifle. I went to the store. I bought these primers, and I'm getting a 6-inch group at 25 yards. What am I doing wrong? And I go, what do you got for primers? So then he tells me, and I tell him, here's what you need to do. Go get some American-made primer. Call me back next day, and he's shooting at 100 yards, no problem. A 2-inch group, and just that primer makes it that much of a difference.
That's a very good point that I personally probably would have overlooked had you not told me that. And I think a lot of guys will do that. So really take that into, because the next question I was going to have, take that to heart, because some of those things make a huge difference. And when you talk about muzzling, like Alison said before, I remember doing my own powder, and you think, oh, you use those little plastic measuring things. And I mean, one tick off, I would see huge differences on my accuracy. What this is just a personal recipe. Ask for you, Tom. What is your personal favorite bullet to use out of one of your guns?
Now I'm shooting the Smackdown 250 grain carnivore bullet.
Great bullet.
It's a saboted bullet, has a polymer tip, and downrange accuracy is really good. Whether you're shooting a fire stick platform with a nitrofire, or if you're shooting even an inline breech plug gun, those bullets perform very well. If you're hunting whitetail, I mean, they have enough weight to them, so they give you the energy that you need downrange, but they shoot accurate, they're easy to load, and they have a ridgeback sabot that's on those bullets. So what it does, it actually creates, when you're shooting it, it creates a better gas seal, and it's tighter in the bore when you fire the gun. So it gives you more consistency when you are using loose powder or pellets.
Deer Talk Now is brought to you by 10-Point Crossbows and the all-new TX440. This compact crossbow features new twin riser technology as well as a rail-less design to provide superior accuracy. Coming in at only 28 inches long and 6.5 inches wide, the TX440 packs a powerful punch in a compact, ergonomic design. For more information, visit 10pointcrossbows.com. You know, we were talking off air about that buck you shot in Nebraska. That same trip I shot, it was my biggest mule deer ever, and it was with that bullet. That same bullet. And that was the first time I'd ever used that bullet, and my goodness, that is impressive. But I think that the accuracy goes to what you're saying is, when I used to do, Dave Henderson used to do all sorts of articles on slug gun hunting for us with shotguns, and he taught me, he said, you know, those slug guns, he said you had to experiment because the tolerances were always different. And I think that's the same with your muzzleloaders, is that, not just your muzzleloaders, any muzzleloader, is that you got to make sure you have the right combination of bullet. It's much easier now when we're talking about the charge, because the charge is the charge. It's factory set and it's precise. So let's get to talking about one thing I know that you guys came out with earlier this year was the Pro Series. And Alison, can you just take us through what you did with those guns I know you juiced them up and you put some bells and whistles on them. What are some of the things people can expect when they go into their dealer to look at one of these?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Pro Series is really special for me because being somebody, Dan, you know, I'm a shorter person, a smaller individual. You know, sometimes things don't always fit for me, or maybe there's hunters out there that wear a lot of, you know, clothing. They're hunting in Vermont or Wisconsin during cold weather, and they have a lot of layers on. It can really change the ability for your length of pull, where your cheek rests on the stock. You may have different needs. So we recognize that, and so with the Pro Series, we made it adjustable to you. Now you can adjust the cheek piece here. You simply unscrew this. And
I was going to say that's just a couple screws that you or one screw that you move, and you can adjust it, right?
One screw right here, and then let me see if I can come here. So one screw right here, and again, you could change this. So if you're left-handed, you could put this on the other side too, which I think is important to note. And you simply unscrew it, you raise this up, tighten it back down, and you've adjusted your comb here. We also put on the back side here spacers, so you can add or remove them to change your length of pull. So that's important, especially for me, because now I can really pull it in quite tight if I've, taken out some of those spacers and brought it down to where it's more manageable for like me, but for anybody, they want a custom shooting experience, and this really allows you to do that. Another cool feature that I think on the Pro Series is just amazing is on the Nitrofire and Pursuit Series, we've added a threaded barrel. So you can unscrew this cap and you can put on a muzzle brake. So that helps with recoil reduction. It also helps with smoke diversion. The ports on the muzzle brake port out to the side, so that helps divert your smoke so you can stay on target better. You're not just going to get that big poof of smoke and not be able to see your target any longer. It's going to divert out, and it's going to help with that. So that I just think is such a great feature to have. Now you can get a rifle, and maybe you have people you hunt with that you can change it for. You can make it more comfortable for them. So the Pro Series for me is it's just the next level of having an enjoyable shooting experience and having a super accurate rifle.
I really like that.
Actually.
I haven't tried it yet. I really like the idea of the muzzle brake because like you said, it's reducing recoil. I'm assuming it's not that they're super loud anyways, but it's probably helping with noise a little bit. And then the smoke diversion, I think these guys are going to like, because every time, I don't give them much time. I'm like, Ian, are you on it? And he said, yeah, poof, I shoot. And it's like, okay, where'd that deer go? But that is a cool feature. And that's the first time I'd ever seen that is when you guys came out with that rifle. Now, the adjustable cheek piece, very good, because I know a lot of people, as you said, now you don't have to be small or anything like that, but a lot of people they can't quite a big guy gun. I have it in here, and then I give it to my daughters. They shot them, and they just couldn't get acclimated to them. So that's something that's a very easy, and you don't have to take it to a gunsmith to do it too. So I think that is a cool thing. The other thing I wanted to ask is, what's the deal with the twist in the barrels again? I know that's something special to that particular model.
Yeah, so on our NitroFire models in general, and then the NitroFire Pro and our Pursuit series as well, we have a 1 in 24 twist. So that's a faster twist rate. So the NitroFire and the Pursuit both have a 26-inch barrel. So you're getting a full rotation of that bullet before it leaves the barrel. So that just increases your accuracy. It's going to help your shooting. We just really feel like the faster twist does provide you a little bit more accuracy.
And Brad was asking me, so what if you're a long-range shooter? He actually asked me to ask you this question. If you're a long-range shooter, what kind of performance can you expect out of one of these rifles?
It's like anything else with a muzzleloader, Dan, and that's, working up that powder charge, that load, that bullet weight, and then also your rifling twist, depending on, it's going to the range and it's practicing. We have different folks that ask us, what can I expect at 100 yards? Well, we say 2 inches is normal at 100 yards. If you work up your load and you take your time, you can get it dialed in even tighter than that. We were at the range the other day and we were shooting 6-inch plates at 200 yards and no problem. I mean, it's a tough question because the gun is capable of doing it as long as you are capable as a shooter to be able to shoot out to those distances. 300 yards, 400 yards. I've seen people shoot 500 yards. But those are guys that do it all the time. They're practicing. They shoot long distance. They have wind. They know all the different factors that they're dealing with when you're shooting out that distance. When you're shooting 50 or 100 yards and you got a little bit of a crosswind, not so much of a distance, but you go out to 500 yards, it makes a big difference.
Huge difference. And I like the way you couch that, Tom, because I'm the same way. It's muzzle loading. I think the longest shot I ever did take was at that mule deer, and it was maybe 140 yards. But for me, that's no different than me with my crossbow. I'm not taking a 70-yard shot with my crossbow, and I know that velocities and downrange performance on bullets is good. However, a lot can happen between 150 and 200 yards, and now you're going beyond that. If you're that guy and you can do it, great, more power to you, but I think you've got a little bit more mad scientist in you than I do, because I certainly couldn't be figuring that stuff out.
We have a gentleman that works here, and he's a long distance shooter, and he goes out every weekend, and he shoots with a muzzleloader, and he can shoot, and he can shoot that distance, and he's confident. He shoots in competition, and he's got it. I'm not. I'm like you, Dan. I mean, I want to make sure that, especially if it's a really nice deer, I don't want that thing walking off the field for any reason. So it's just knowing the capabilities, dialing the gun, and having that adjustable cheek piece like Alison was talking about, where you can raise it up or you can lower it down, makes a big difference. If having that gun fit you That just gives you that little bit of an edge to shoot that distance that you're comfortable with.
Okay, so you're shooting this gun. You're using the charges. What type of how many shots are you taking before you're cleaning that thing completely? I'm not saying breaking it down because you don't have to really do that anymore. But like a full cleaning, how many shots are you doing before you start cleaning that thing?
Well, if I'm at the range and I'm sighting it in, a whole different situation than obviously when I'm hunting. But at the range, if I'm sighting it in, I'll take 2 or 3 shots, get a good grouping, let's say 25, 50 yards, and then move the target out to 100. Clean it really good because I want to simulate what's going to happen when I'm going into the field hunting, right? In the morning when I'm going out, I got a clean gun. So I want to have to shoot from a clean barrel. So I'll shoot another 2 or 3 at 100. If I feel that's good, I'll clean it and take another shot to make sure that I'm right where I want to be with an absolutely clean gun. And then I'll clean it and I'm good to go in the morning. But always from a clean gun. So it's more about dialing it in it depends on your powder as well. So if you're shooting like Pyrodex, like 777 or any of those powders, then you start to create a ring inside your barrel. So you really want to get that carbon ring out. So in my opinion, I would only do like 2 or 3 shots maximum. A lot of times you can feel it when you're loading your bullet. When it starts to get hard, it's your rifle's telling you need to clean the gun. You're shooting Blackhorn or you're shooting the fire sticks, they burn a lot cleaner. So you might be able to get more shots. It depends on the weather also. If there's a lot of humidity and different factors that are there. But I usually do it in between like 2 or 3 shots, run a patch, run a brush, run a dry patch, clean it out real quick. It's real easy today to do that. So you're just going to get that little bit of an edge downrange and when you go out in the field.
Was I given bad information back in the day? So I'm going back to 1995, and I cannot remember what gun it was. I have to look it up because the first muzzleloader I shot. But I remember the guys back then said, those guns like to shoot a dirty barrel, and you want to make sure you pop a couple caps through there before you go hunting. Was that good advice, or has that changed?
Well, so here's an example of what I do when I get ready to go out in the field is I take a patch. I make sure the gun's not loaded first. Then I take a patch with a range rod and I run it all the way down on the barrel. And then you can't do this with a nitrifier, but you can do it with a breech plug gun. Run the patch all the way down the barrel with a ramrod, break it open, take a primer, put it and fire it onto that patch. And when you pull that patch out now, you can see that it's got a nice burn ring. It went right through. The breech plug's clean. And now all that fouling or whatever's in the barrel is on that patch. But bring it up and then smell it. And then go out there and try to understand why the deer might not be coming to your blind because
that's
they
a
can
good
smell
point.
that stuff as well.
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
Say, I always ignite a cap. In the old days, you put it on a leaf, and you'd fire it, and then it'd be in your barrel. This way, all the oils or anything that are inside your breech plug are put onto the patch, not going into your powder charge that you're trying to fire if you don't do that. So, and it doesn't smell. I know that there's other guns that are on the market, other manufacturers. If it's like a sub-bore 50 caliber, they'll tell you to fire something so it's a dirty round, if you will, in there. So when you load your gun, it's nice and tight. With the Traditions guns, they're designed to be used with a sabot or a 50 caliber skirted bullet, and so it's tight when it goes down the bore. You don't need to foul it out. You have a clean bore. Put your bullet in there. Put whatever whatever you're using for powder first, obviously, or a nitrifier. Use a fire stick, and you're clean and you don't stink when you go in the woods.
That's right. That's
well, your rifle doesn't. You might, but your rifle doesn't.
No, but chances are it would be me. But I do try to. I'm scent killing myself to the nth degree. I think we went through that, but there was a question right in there now that I forgot. Tell me, and either one of you can take this question. Tell me about the trigger too, because I know there's something special with the trigger on these rifles.
So the Nitrofire and like our Pursuit series has the Elite XT trigger system. So it has a rebounding hammer. So one of the nice things is you can actually cock it while it's on safe. So when you go into the woods, you can have your safety mechanism on, but have your firearm cocked, so you can quickly take it off. While if you're heading the blind and you happen to see some deer, or you're going up into your tree stand, you can always make sure your firearm is in a safe position. The trigger is just a better trigger as well. It's a crisp trigger. If you feel this trigger versus some of our other ones, it's improved. So it's just a great trigger.
Is the trigger adjustable?
Do you have anything else?
No. So one of the things also, like Alison was saying, it's really got a couple different safety mechanisms in it. One is if you're pulling it back and you drop it for some reason, it stops it from hitting onto the firing pin. The only way this gun will fire is if you actually pull the trigger and it comes forward. You can see it hits on the firing pin, and it comes back and it locks in this position here. So it puts it in a safe position. You can have the safety on so it won't fire, and then when you're ready to fire, you just pull it back and it's ready to go. If you decide not to, you take your safety off and you just let it down to that position where it won't go forward and fire the gun. So there's two different safeties that we build in the gun. And like when you're going up to your stand, you can put it in this position, open it up, take your fire stick out, and then when you're up there, you can have your safety on, and when you're ready to fire, pull it back, and you're ready to shoot the gun again.
Okay, so we've been talking, I don't know how, 25 minutes on this technology. I want you guys to know these guns are like, what, $600-700 brand new for one of these rifles? That's a lot of technology built into a gun that is, I mean, I know a lot of guys that are using these during rifle season. I mean, they go gun hunting, but it's like, I'm just taking my muzzleloader because it's more fun for them. It's just like me taking like my bow or my crossbow. So is there anything you can give us that's coming up, or is that all a secret for now?
Well, it won't be secret for you, Dan, much longer, but
we can't tell the viewers, so they're gonna have to. The listeners, they're gonna have to wait a little bit.
Yeah, no. Unfortunately, that's part of what we have to do. We have to wait until the beginning of the year when we're going to unveil it at the SHOT Show. But right now, yeah, no, we just got to keep everybody.
Christmas in January, so you guys are getting another exciting present here coming up pretty soon. Tell us about the Traditions family. How many employees do you have? Where are they all located? And how many of these rifles are they producing every year?
Well, we have right here in Old Saybrook, Connecticut, we have 27 employees that work here, and then we have another 50 at the factory that's building the guns. But you know, we're producing as many as we can right now. We're selling more and more every year because, just like you mentioned earlier, there's states that are allowing it to be used now. Where when we first started out, there was a few states. We changed some of those regulations, and now there's more and more. Plus, just people are getting out and able to see it now. During the pandemic, we just couldn't get enough of them in here, and now that we're starting to catch up with our production, and there's a lot more folks out there using that NitroFire fire stick platform. But it's you know, it's great to bring people back into the muzzleloading, because a lot of people sometimes are intimidated by the category because what happens if I put too much powder? What happens if I put 2 bullets? All these things they get concerned with, where that fire sticks takes some of that away with the powder, certainly. But also it's easy. It's easy to clean. It's easy to load. It's easy to shoot. And just that technology, like you said, they're getting out there and they're using it all different seasons. So once you shoot it, you love it. So
that I know firsthand. Tom, go ahead, Allison.
No, I was just going to say, too, to add on to that, I think that what I would want people to know about Traditions, too, is that, you know, obviously we're on the forefront of technology and we make amazing things like the NitroFire, but we do still honor those traditionalists, and we have side locks, we have cannons, we have black powder revolvers, we have so many other pieces of the muzzleloading world that we produce. You know, we really are producing almost everything at this point for the muzzleloading world. So we pride ourselves on that whether you're a side lock hunter and you're going out in the PA flintlock season, or whether you're somebody who only has a 1-week season and you need convenience and accuracy like the NitroFire, we really have something for everybody.
That much I knew, and I was going to ask you, do you have I'm giving you a new product idea here. Do you have a turkey gun in that version yet?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. So that's that. Just
we do get asked.
Put that in your hip pocket for the next one. So I wanted to circle back to that map, Ian. 10 states, and I have to list them: Washington, California. There, Allison. Look at that. Wow, she's doing my job for me. Nebraska, Alabama, Louisiana, South Carolina, see if I get this correct, Indiana, Rhode Island, Maryland, and Delaware are the only places you cannot use them during muzzleloader season. That'll change. I don't know what's wrong with you guys in Indiana, Alabama, Nebraska, and Louisiana, even South Carolina. The other states, no offense, but, you guys kind of march to your own drummer. But Nebraska's got to get with the times. Alabama, you guys got to get with the times. We got with the times, and I thought we wouldn't because Wisconsin actually had it written in that it wasn't going to be allowed. And then once they saw it, they said, yeah, that makes sense. And now, actually, I'm going to be killing a deer this week as this airs with that gun. So where can people go find out more about Traditions? Where can they actually pick up a gun and look at it and find out, which one that they might want to shoot?
So if you're looking online, as so many people do before they go into a store, you can go to traditionsfirearms.com. All of our products are up there, even, the ones like the Night Fire that you can't buy direct from us. And then we sell to so many amazing retailers, Cabela's, Bass Pro, Walmart, so many out there. I mean, and there's so many smaller dealers as well that carry our products. So even if a dealer maybe doesn't have Traditions in their store, they can always order it and get it in store so someone can take a look at it. When I talk to consumers, when we do consumer shows and things like that, I think it's so important for them to go in and shoulder a rifle and make sure it feels comfortable for them. We have many different inline rifles, but what's comfortable for me might not be comfortable for you. So I'm a big proponent of going in a store and doing that. So those are just a few of the bigger retailers, but there's so many. I mean, Tom's more on the sales side of things, so he can probably answer the question
if
best.
you go to our website, there's a dealer locator. If you put in your city and state, then there's a bunch of dealers that are on there that you can look, see where they're located. Also, like Allison said, if the dealer doesn't have it, he can order it through a distributor or call us and we'll find it for him. So we have a lot of different customers that are out there that are across the states, and some that are just getting back into muzzleloading. So it gives them a reason to go back in when you walk in and ask to see it. So they'll bring it in and show it to you.
Are there any other retailers that I missed that are national?
There's a bunch of, all the big retailers out there, they're carrying pretty much the Traditions brand. And so, like I said, the brick and mortar stores, there's a bunch of guys across the whole United States that carry the category, and they're knowledgeable. When you walk in and you have questions like you're asking today, Dan, they can answer that because they're experienced in the muzzleloading field.
I want to thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day. I know you're very busy, but I've always appreciated talking hunting with you, and especially firearms, because unlike our friend Mark Seidlinger, I am not a gun geek. You give it to me, you set it up, you tell me where to shoot. I will kill the deer, but all those little questions I'm always going to keep asking because I'm continually learning.
Mm-hmm.
We appreciate your time too, Dan, and we love talking about the muzzleloading sport and hunting and the products we have, but we enjoy seeing you and answering any questions that you might have and just getting out in the field.
Yeah. And if any viewers have questions, please leave comments. We're happy to answer questions. If you have them, save you a call. We can answer them for you.
Write in the comments, please. Write in the comments. It helps wherever you're listening to the podcast, because that will help feed that podcast out. And like I said, if they're not watching it, we're watching it. Everybody here's watching it, and we truly will get you in the right direction. Okay, Tom, Allison, thank you so much for joining us. And I hope you guys have a great upcoming Christmas and a good end of your deer season.
Thank you.
You too, Dan. Good to see you. Thank you.
Okay, same here. For Tom Hall, Alison Hall, I am Dan Schmidt. All we ask you to do is like and subscribe to the Deer Talk Now podcast. We are nearing, I think, 300,000 subscribers on YouTube. Please keep that going. And also, if you're listening to the podcast, just download it and ask away, like and subscribe. We will catch you next Thursday for another brand new episode of Deer Talk Now.